Welcome to Blooming Wildwood Homestead. Today is our check-in for the second week of February and our pantry challenge. It's hard to believe that we're already about 6 weeks into this challenge. I hope things have been going really well for you. I would love to hear about some of your successes down in the comments below. I don't have a recipe to share with you this week. We've had a lot of really nice weather this weekend, so I've been out trying to get some things prepared in the garden and doing some other types of items. So I didn't get a video filmed for recipes, but I hope that today's conversation will be helpful to you as well. Let me know in the comments if there's any particular kind of topics that you want me to cover as we're starting to wrap up the pantry challenge, and let me know if there are any particular recipes you would like to see. I've had requests for more of a low carb option, and so we might go through a couple of things that I think can be really helpful if you're trying to do more of the low carb side of things, and we'll look at that in the upcoming weeks, but let me know what would be helpful for you as well. Today we're going to be discussing why you need to start a pantry. This might seem like kind of an odd video to share 6 weeks into what we're doing, and if you have been participating in the pantry challenge, my assumption is that you're already working from some type of pantry. So this might not be something that needs to encourage you to get started, but I'm hoping that these ideas can be helpful in encouraging others to get started. Maybe there's someone that you have been trying to share with and encouraging to get started with a pantry. So please stick with me. I hope these can be great talking points for you to use as well, and feel free to share this video out to those who need it. Today we're going to focus on the extended pantry. Many people have kind of that working pantry where you have a few of your staples and you're able to pull from that and do your baking or create the meals that you want to create. But today we really want to talk about more of the extended pantry, having those things put back that are going to help you and be kind of the extras, as well as items that are in your freezer, and kind of encompassing all of that today. I want to talk about 3 main overarching points for why you need to start a pantry. And the first one is food shortages. I know it's been all over the news. We've heard about it from so many people, and you're probably tired of hearing about this, but we do know that we have supply chain issues right now, and we do know that food shortages are a real concern. That's not to say that when you go to the grocery store, everything is going to be empty and that you're not going to be able to find things to eat. But what I have noticed is when I've kind of gone on some sightseeing trips, or when I've gone to pick up an item or two, I have noticed that there will be different items that are out each time. Sometimes it'll be pasta. You won't find exactly what it is that you're looking for. Sometimes it's different kinds of soup. Sometimes it's dairy, sometimes it's meat. You're going to find different shortages in different areas. And if you want to have continuity of your food supply, it's just nice to have some things set aside and have that put back, so that if you go to the store looking for something and they don't have flour that day, you don't have to worry because you already have a little bit extra set aside. Or if they don't have the chicken that you were looking for, you don't have to worry because you had one in the freezer that you saved up from last time. Just keeping a little extra on hand and starting that extended pantry can be really helpful to guard against food shortages. The second overarching umbrella is emergency preparedness. We hear a lot about being prepared for emergencies, and we talk about keeping emergency supplies. I've talked about ideas for power outages, things of that nature, but we also want to be prepared with our food supply. You might not be directly impacted by some type of natural disaster, but it's possible that the stores and those around you might be impacted by a natural disaster. And that's one of the emergencies that we want to really be mindful of and have some extra things on hand to guard against. This is really true in my area where I live. We don't have risk of flooding here. but there is a lot of risk of flooding in the surrounding areas. So while I'm not going to have to worry about a flood here, there have been times when the major highways have been shut down and trucks weren't able to get through, and then some of the surrounding side roads and alternate routes were also closed. That doesn't mean that the trucks weren't going to be able to get here at all, but it does mean that there could be some type of delay. Also, in the natural disaster idea, you don't want to be one of the masses having to run to the store to get milk and bread when you hear on the news that a few snowflakes might be in the forecast, or when you hear that some other type of natural disaster is occurring or has the potential to occur. Even FEMA says that we should have 3 days of food and water on hand, and that's just a bare minimum. Having that extra in your extended pantry, having a few things in your freezer is going to really set you up to not have to worry as much or to be scrambling at the last minute when a natural disaster is potentially going to occur. The second thing that kind of falls under that emergency preparedness umbrella is illness. We definitely have seen this over the last couple of years, and I think my whole mindset on this topic has changed a little bit. I didn't really think about how useful the pantry was for times when you need to be home and when you might either have an illness or when you might have been exposed to an illness. Particularly in the last couple of years when we have had longer periods of time where you've had to stay at home or potentially had to stay at home, it's nice to have things on hand and again, just not have to worry about, well, how am I going to get to the store, or how am I going to pick up those items that I think that I'm going to need. If you have some things in your extended pantry, you have some things in the freezer, it just gives you a great sense of peace of mind. The third idea that falls under the emergency preparedness umbrella would be job loss. And I know that's not something that we talk about frequently, nor do we want to have that conversation. However, I think it's something that we do really need to consider with the state of our economy and with the way that businesses have just been working on restructuring and changing the way that they do business. When they change the way that they do business, it changes the workforce and the way that we're working or the jobs that are available. This can result in some type of restructuring, which could mean that someone who has typically had a very stable job might now be at risk. So even if you are in a position where you have had a lot of job stability, with all of these different moving parts and all of these potential changes, it's good to have some things set aside in your extended pantry and in your freezer to hedge against this type of situation. If you immediately had a loss of income as a result of job loss, you are going to be so thankful that you have a few things set back to kind of help hedge against that. The third overarching umbrella that I wanted to talk about is money saving. If you have a pantry, it is going to save you money. Initially, yes, there's going to be some cost involved in stocking up your pantry and working towards that, but it's not something that you're going to do all at once. You're going to be working on this extended pantry and getting it set up over the course of time. It might be a matter of just buying a couple extra items every time you go for your main shopping trip. And over the course of time, you're going to have much more to be able to use off of in your extended pantry. And as well as that, if you are gardening, you're going to be adding some things to your pantry anyway if you take up some of the food preservation techniques that we have talked about. You're going to be able to add some things right there from your garden, and that's going to save you money because you didn't even have to go out and buy it. It was just your initial investment of canning supplies. So when we talk about money saving, inflation is one of the first things that comes to my mind these days. We are seeing a rise in food costs at a rate that I don't remember ever seeing in my lifetime. And the more that you can have just kind of set aside and the more that you can be preparing, the more it's going to help you hedge against inflation. What you buy today is going to cost more tomorrow. So if you're able to get an extra item or two today, it's going to help save you money tomorrow. The second thing under this umbrella, you're going to be able to shop sales. If you're not always buying just what you need in that moment, you can take advantage of more of the store sales. So if you see that maybe canned corn is on sale and that's not something that you've been preserving from your own garden, you could pick up an extra can or two. So then later when you need that corn, you don't have to buy it at the regular price that they're asking at the store because you already bought it on sale. So it helps you to save on your grocery bill in that way. The third thing in this overarching money saving idea is that you are going to make fewer grocery store trips. I have definitely been to the grocery store much less since intentionally challenging myself to eat out of the pantry and be focused on using down some of the items that are in my pantry. And as you are making fewer trips to the grocery store, it's saving you on gas, first of all. And second of all, it's kind of along with my next idea here, it's saving you from making impulse purchases. I don't know if this happens to you, but if I am not very careful when I go to the store and try to really make sure that I'm only buying things off my list, I can be tempted to make impulse purchases. And I will see something and I'm like, oh, that's on sale, even though it wasn't on my list and it's not something that I really needed to add to my pantry. It's an impulse buy, and just because I could use it for maybe a meal or two, I might not get the best use out of it. And so we just want to try and make fewer trips to the grocery store and have fewer impulse buys. The other thing is that you're potentially going to be buying fewer groceries to start with. If you take up some of those food preservation ideas that we've been talking about, canning your own food from the garden, freezing food, dehydrating food, you're going to be making the best use of food that you're already growing, and that's going to help you to save money in the future as you're going through the fall, winter, early spring, when you don't have as much fresh food to be able to draw upon from the garden. So that can really be a money saving technique and one of my preferred methods, and we can definitely help you get started with gardening if that's not something that you have previously been working with. Lastly, in the money saving idea would be the ability to buy in bulk. If you are just buying what you need at that moment, it's going to be more expensive than if you're able to buy a larger quantity. That's not saying that you have to go and buy 50 pounds of flour every time you go to the store, but if you are buying in a larger quantity, it's going, most of the time, you still have to watch your prices, but most of the time, it's going to be a little bit less expensive than if you bought the 5 pounds of flour. So having that extended pantry, knowing how to store your foods so that you have them for the future, that's going to really save you a lot of time and money in the future. I hope today's video was helpful to you, and I hope that these reasons for why you need to start a pantry can be an encouragement for you to get off the sidelines and start working on building up your pantry today. Please don't forget to like this video if it was helpful to you, and we would love to have you subscribe and be part of our community here at the Homestead. Until next time, bye everyone.